Hi everybody, it's Joy Packard. How are you guys doing? I just wanted to wish those fathers out there a happy Father's Day. It has been an amazing week. We just got back from our cruise. We had a family reunion, the Williamson cruise that we just got back from with several different people. A lot of Stan's family, a lot of his cousins, and we had an amazing time. And so it's been nonstop. We left on Monday and we got back on Friday, or actually we got back Saturday morning, and then we had Gianna and Selena singing last night at the Sugarland Superstar, and so it was really, really awesome. And so I just wanted to like I say, wish you guys, those who are fathers, a happy Father's Day. I can't help but think of my own daddy. Today, my dad passed away a few years ago, and we miss him tremendously. He was a very special person in my life. I, have always been known as a daddy's girl, and I just miss him today. As I think about him and I think about fathers, I just thought I would share with you a few things that I learned from this amazing man. And I know we all think our dad is the best, but honestly, my dad is the best. But he was such a man of. He was such a legend in his time, and still is. I mean, if you ask anybody about my dad, he was just an amazing man. And there are a lot of lessons I could, I was just thinking out loud, or thinking in my head rather, just a few minutes ago, about my dad and about the things that I have learned from him. And one of the biggest things that I learned from him is that he showed us love. He showed us the importance of not just loving, with your whole heart, but loving with everything that you have, which I guess is your whole heart in some ways. But, that was one thing. He just taught us, to just show ample amount of love. And it was such a gift that he had that he passed on to his children. And, he showed my mom that, showed my siblings that, showed me that. And so another thing that I learned from him is he was such a giving man. He basically he would give the shirt off his back. He was a very always looking to make sure other people had their needs met. And one of the things, I can think of one time we were eating in a restaurant, and he looked over and he saw a couple in the corner or something, and he told the waitress, just please include those people over there on my bill. And I was a little girl, and I still remember that to this very day, and I try and follow that example. And it's just such a great way to live. I guess you hear that saying, if you've been blessed, bless others. And that was my dad. He was just a man that was always like that. He would give of his heart, and he would, look around to see who was in need. I remember one time we had some, one of my sons is on a mission in Uruguay, and missionaries they don't have a lot of money. They don't. They live on literally $400 a month, and that's for food and housing and everything. And I remember one time when we had some in our area, and my dad bought them some shoes or something because he saw their shoes. Well, they were getting old or whatever, and I thought that is such a neat thing. That what a kind man. That's when I think of my dad. I think kind and aware, and those are things that have been instilled in me ever since I was little. And many of you who follow me, I talk about that so much. I talk about kindness and love and forgiving and being aware. I think that's my biggest word is lately, is to be aware. And that's how my dad was. He was always aware of those around him. He was aware of their needs, and what could he do to help them. He was such a giving and a helpful man. And I thought, those are 2 or 3 big things that I remember about him. And another thing that as I'm thinking, this is on the fly too, and I'm just thinking out loud. And another thing that I remember about my dad is he was such a fun man. like he was a doctor, but he was like so, what is the word? Like just really into living life to the fullest. And, like, again, those who know me know what I talk about on my podcast, on a daily basis here on Facebook, to live every single day as if it were your last. Today in church there was somebody talking about how there was a couple that, they were doing laundry together, and then silently his partner passed away right there while they were folding laundry. And I got to thinking about that today. I got to thinking about, if we are living our life every single day the way that we should, and to be kind and to be aware and, to be helping those around us, then we'll have no regrets. And we will know that we have lived every single day the best that we had, the best we could. And if like we were to pass away at any moment, we could know that we gave of our heart, that we were aware of those around us, that we were loving and giving and kind, And that was such a huge lesson that I learned, to be aware and to live your life, to the best that you can every single day. I remember when I was in high school, even junior high, one of my favorite memories of my dad is we would go and run together. We would run around the high school track and we would just have conversations. And I remember, I had my first baby, I learned from my dad. And so I just can't quite remember all of them. But I do know, some of those amazing traits that he had that I've just mentioned, love, kindness, being aware, giving, he was, and living life to the fullest that we just talked about. He was always dancing, and he was just always telling jokes, and he was, even on his very last days when he was at home with us, he would tell, happy jokes, and he would tell us to just be happy. And, those are some of the most fondest memories I can think of him, because he was such an amazing man. And to his very last day here on earth, he encouraged people, even when he couldn't even bathe himself, and he had my brother and my mom and people that were helping him bathe. You can hear him, not be able to even, hold his arms up, say, "Thank you, baby," and I thought, even on his very last moments, when he could even hardly talk, he was still grateful, still loving and grateful, and taught us that. And so, it's like when you have someone like that in your life that lives their life like that, and that means so much to you, it's hard on Father's Day to not think of your father, right? And so, I was always a daddy's girl. We played tennis together. We used to run together. He was my go-to, as far as advice and jokes and laughing. And that, has made me a lot of who I am today and why I am the way I am because of him. And so, today on Father's Day, I'm sure you all are all thinking about your father. And that's one thing that I encourage you today, to think about their traits and their characteristics about them that make us love them so much. Because, many of you may still have your father with you, and that's awesome. And what I say to you to that is, love your dad and spend as much time with him as you can, because you just never know when your last days will be. And so, as I think of the moments that I spent with him before he passed away, being in the same room with him and listening to his stories and holding his hand and him telling me how much he loves me, it just made me think about that today, because he is such a special, special person, and his legend lives on. And so, there are many things that we can learn from our fathers, and my father was an amazing, amazing man, and such an example of being on point, an example of, living your life to the best that you can, reading your scriptures, saying your prayers. My dad would always say, if your life is ever out of order, or you feel like it's out of order, or something seems not and right, Thanks, Lisa. If you ever think about your life and that things are kind of like scattered, I guess, or not the way that you want it to be, my dad would always say, are you doing the basics? You know, and you think, what are the basics? And, you know, in your life may be different what your basics are. But my dad would say, you know, are you saying your prayers? Are you reading your scriptures? Are you serving? Are you doing good in the community? Are you showing love to your kids? You know? And so I think that whenever I think about him, and like if my life is ever a roller coaster, or if my life is ever like not peak, I think about his words, and I think about that, and I think, oh, you know, maybe I'm lacking in one of those things that he recommended, you know, or that he says. And going back to basics, hey, come on here. This is my husband. I'm just talking about my dad.
Oh.
And
I love your
so,
dad.
yeah. Before we let them go, this is my husband. Happy Father's Day. I'm talking about my dad's, and you didn't hear everything I said, did you?
No.
Okay, so let's just see what my husband says. I want you to think of at least one characteristic about my dad.
He's so giving.
Oh.
Number one.
Okay, that was one of the
Gives
things
from
I
his
said. Okay, I said only one, so I just kind of think of a few more. I want to see if you say the same thing that I said. One or two more things that you can think of about Dad
Okay.
that were good characteristics.
He always showed love by what he did for you. He does for you.
Okay.
Service.
Remember
He
that
serves you.
remember that this was just on the fly, and so he's saying exactly. You know, you know now. Like, okay, what else? This is crazy. You can think one more. I'm putting him on the spot. While he's thinking, Happy Father's Day.
This is one that most people, it goes less noticed about, but he always set a really good example by the way he lived his life. And so he always said, like, it was always where he needed to be, always doing what he needed to be doing, and he was always in a position of moral authority.
Okay. There, that just goes to show you guys that my daddy was an amazing man, and so is his dad. We'll talk about his dad in another video, but his dad is also amazing. Anyway, I was about to take a nap. I thought I would tell
Father's
him,
Day
Happy
to all your
Father's
fathers
Day.
out there.
And that goes to show you that 3 or 4 things that I mentioned.
And for every good father is a more amazing woman right at his side who edifies him.
Okay, that was very nice. But as you can see, that tells you right there how amazing my dad was, because he said the very same things about my dad. And so I'm just saying, like, you know, for him to say that is just such a great example for all of us, not just for me to hear, you know, but what an example that my dad was, and the things that he said and did, and that his life, even though he is no longer here with us, still lives on through me, through my husband, through my kids, through my grandkids, through his great-grandkids, you know. And we, you know, special days like that today, thank you, Lisa, you know, special days like today that make us stop and think in a moment, you know, like we're always rushing through. And whether it's a birthday or Father's Day, Mother's Day, or a special holiday, I love days like that, because maybe that's why we have them. So it makes us stop and think about it for even a moment, you know, to honor whoever, but also to remember what good comes from that can help us in our life to be better. And so as I think about Father's Day again, happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. And, you know, and I hope that this has enlightened you in some way, because my dad was a very, very amazing man and a legend. And so the things that he taught and the things that he left behind were amazing. You know, the things that he has taught me, I have taught to my own kids. And so I miss my dad today, as you can see. It's really hard to not be emotional when I talk about him, but I love honoring him on the very day that I should be, on one of the days of the year, and that is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to him, to my husband, to my sons who are fathers, and I have 2 sons who are fathers and who are amazing fathers. So anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing Father's Day with whoever you're spending it with, whether you have a dad or not. Surely everybody has somebody that they call their dad or who is like their dad. So, all right, it's time for my Sunday nap. I'll let you go. Just wanted to share with you a few things that my dad has left, and he has left this earth and has still living through me. So thanks, Lisa. You guys take care. Happy Father's Day, everybody.